What's up, fam? And recording, and everybody catching it or not? Happy Sunday. We're hanging audible. I was hoping Missy Monty was gonna be here, because we had discussed on pushing it back today. But we'll be back on regular scheduled program come next week on Saturdays at 10:30 a.m. or we're jam out. We'll be in tune. But today is the Lord's Day, so we're gonna just rock with the punches and get back into the discussion of the Millionaire Next Door, which I believe is extremely practical and right in tune as we really lean into stewardship of our finances, but also everything that encompasses building a wealthy lifestyle, not just a big bank account. So I'm excited to talk about chapters 3 and 4 as we get back into exactly what the authors, both Thomas Stanley and William Danko, had to say. Chapter 3 was on time, energy, and money. It was a pretty thick one. Chapter 4 is You Aren't What You Drive. I really like the title of that chapter, just by the way. A
Yep.
little sad, a little ad lib. But today is a podcast brought to you by Mr. Patrick McDaniel and Marcos Rivera. Believe it or not,
Marco Rivera.
two Latins in the cuts, believe it or not,
Yup.
doing the thing. And we're excited. I hope you guys have been reading, if you're catching the recording, and have been gaining some practical steps to implement within your own financial health and livelihood. And I'm excited to continue this book as we prepare for next week. But I'm gonna let Mr. McDaniel and the baby in the cut with Miss Melody, Patrick's queen, in the cut as well. But I'm gonna let you, bro, take it away. Go ahead.
Alrighty. Well, um, like I said, what really hit me in chapters 3 and 4 of this book really is that wealth is mostly, or it's much more about your discipline than it is about income, aka dollar amount. Chapter 3 kind of made me look at how I'm actually allocating my time, energy, and money. It's easy to say that you want to be wealthy, right? But the real question is does the way I live now prove that I actually want it? You know what I mean? Because wanting something and having the discipline to build it are two completely different things.
I agree.
One thing I took away is that wealthy people are intentional, right? They don't just make money. They know where their money is going, where their time is going, and what they're building towards. You know what I mean? Almost have like a game plan. I kind of think made me think about how easy it is to get caught up chasing the next dollar without ever stopping to ask whether we're actually building something with that dollar. You know what I mean? Chapter 4 really put, the ego in check for me. You aren't what you drive, you aren't what you wear, you aren't the house that you live in. You know what I mean? There's a difference between looking wealthy and actually being wealthy. You know what I mean? Some people increase their income and immediately increase their lifestyle. They make more, so they spend more, and somehow they're still trapped. And honestly, I think that's one of the biggest traps people fall into is like they start making money immediately, or they start making money and immediately like feel like they have to prove it to others. New car, bigger house, better clothes, more stuff. But if your entire lifestyle depends on like continuing to make more money
Yeah.
just to maintain an image, and you're not really free. You're low key a prisoner to the lifestyle that you've built. And honestly, one thing I've noticed, because I was watching this guy, School of Hard Knocks, he like interviewed millionaires on Instagram.
Yeah, bro, he's from Austin. Did you know that?
Yeah, he actually
Yeah,
came
yeah.
to PHP.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, he came to interview some of the people in there.
Wow,
Um,
that's fire.
but one thing I've noticed is that he'll like catch some millionaires in like some regular clothing. They're not wearing like Gucci or anything like that. Like one of the co-founders of Twitch, looking if you didn't know who this guy was, he would just look like a regular, like almost borderline homeless guy. You know what I mean? Um, but it kind of just shows like kind of ties back into like you aren't what you drive or what you wear.
Right.
Um, Kind of made me ask myself a hard question: Am I trying to look successful, or am I actually building success? Because I don't want to build a life that like looks impressive from the outside,
Yeah.
but it's fragile. Neither. I'd rather sacrifice now, live below my means, right? Stay disciplined, build something that gives my family the like that real freedom later. You know what I mean? I'd rather have wealth that nobody can see than an image of wealth that everybody can see. You know what I mean? My biggest takeaway is like leadership kind of starts with being able to lead yourself,
Hmm.
right? If I can't control my spending, my impulses, time, ego, then it doesn't really matter how much money I make. I'm just going to create a more expensive version of the same problems that I'm currently having.
That's a bar.
And I think that's where this gets bigger than money.
Right.
You know what I mean? This is about character. It's about being able to delay gratification. It's about being willing to look different from everybody else while you're building something. And you have to be comfortable with sacrificing what other people won't sacrifice if you want to eventually have what other people don't have. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to build a life that looks successful. I'm trying to build actually like is actually successful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want that kind of wealth that gives my families options, security, freedom, and the ability to like overall help other people. It's not just something that gets attention because I feel like real wealth, and this is one thing I've definitely noticed, like especially getting into like finances and stuff like that, is that real wealth is actually like really quiet.
It's
It's
really
when
what?
like nobody's watching, nobody knows about it. Huh?
You kind of broke up. You said it's really like what?
I said wealth is really quiet.
Really quiet.
It's
Mm.
built when like there's nobody watching and it's built in your discipline, your sacrifices, the boring decisions and the moments where there's nobody clapping for you, nobody giving you that recognition. And I think the goal is to become the man who can handle wealth before he ever gets it, which kind of ties into what you and I have been talking about. You know what I mean? Like if a guy can't trust you to handle a few $100 to steward over it correctly, what makes you think he's gonna give you $1,000,
Or $100,000.
$10,000?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because when the money finally comes, I don't want it to change who I am. I want it to reveal who I became while I was building it. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. And I just to like touch in on that because it's extremely important. Like obviously we're helping co-create a faith-based organization, right? Where we acknowledge God's sovereignty and we do things in honor for him and his kingdom and his people. So that part, bro, and what you said is like scripturally it tells us that where you find a man's treasure, there too you'll find his heart. So, I got taught by mentors back in the day that, money doesn't change you, it reveals your character, who you actually are. And the only reason why you don't have what it is that you desire is because you're not the person deserving of it just yet. So I agree with you, bro. I feel like the more that you become that individual that is capable of not only stewarding but also having more value because you've refined, you've built, you've worked, like that's a big part of it, right? And I think it ties back in and essentially the chapter you're talking about, right? This how are you
Yeah.
using your time? How are you utilizing your energy? How are you using your money? So go ahead.
And I'm gonna end
For
on
that.
a few powerful quotes that I kind of just wrote down. One of them was, actually, I wrote them down in my notes. For them, money is a resource that should never be wasted. And that hit me because it kind of made me think just beyond money, like beyond just the sole thing of money. Time and energy are resources too. You know what I mean? And that's one thing I've definitely learned about. Like my time is probably the most valuable thing to me as far as resources go. If I'm serious about building wealth, I can't just like work harder. I have to be intentional about where I put my time, attention, and energy. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So like kind of goes hand in hand with like the whole reason why we created a trading plan. You know what I mean? Because if we're going to be doing this, like it needs to be intentional with, have some type of intention behind it instead of just clicking buttons and gambling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Another one I have down here is pause, PAWS, allocate nearly twice the number of hours per month to planning their financial investment than as UAWs do. So wealth is isn't accidental. You know what I mean? It is. I feel like the people who actually built it, like that actually like build, think think about it, plan for it, make decisions around it consistently. And that kind of made me ask myself like whether I'm actually planning for the future or that like the future that I want and that I say I want, or am I just hoping to get there? You know what I mean? And for those of you who don't know what PAWS and UAW is stands for prodigus, I think accumulator of wealth. So basically someone who has accumulated significantly more wealth than expected for their age or income or circumstance. They're typically disciplined with spending, investing consistently, and like prioritize
Yeah.
building net worth. UAW is under accumulator of wealth, which is someone who's accumulated significantly less wealth than expected for their age or income. They may earn a lot, but they also spend a lot too, often on like lifestyle, cars, houses, status, consumption. And then I think there was a middle category. It's like average accumulator of wealth, which is roughly what you would expect for someone with their income and age to have accumulated. And so the last one I have here is they believe that financial independence is more important than displaying high social status. And this one probably is my biggest one, just because looking wealthy and being wealthy are two completely different things. Like I said, I'd rather have freedom than have, something sitting in my driveway that impresses everybody else. You know what I mean? A lot of people they'll buy these cars and stuff, but they can barely afford the gas to put into the cars. You know what I mean? Like that's
You
not
gotta go get
really
a diesel player. That's
not for real. Like
true.
that's
That's
not
real.
freedom to
That's
me.
real.
You know what I mean? But yeah, that was my last one.
That's the last thing you wanted to share.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I mean that's good, bro, and I appreciate your insight there. I was gonna touch on, especially for those who are catching the recording and don't remember or have not read the difference between PA dubs and UA dubs. I thought it was significant in the time, energy, and money chapter under page 97, table 3.5. It talks about investing, planning, and demographic contrasts middle income PA dubs and UA dubs. And this is where I feel like it's very significant. Like sometimes people, and I'm gonna post a reel about this. I literally spoke about it. And this is something that I feel like people struggle with. We don't have a perspective problem. We have a depth perception problem. So we think that we're a lot further than where we actually think that we are. Mind you, a lot of the information and demographics, the stats and the data that they're referring to and they've gathered are from middle income type of people, right? You can start reading this book and forget that and think that they're just talking about the extremes, those that aren't making any money and those that are extremely wealthy already. But again, reminder at the beginning of this book, it was reminding us that it explains how those that don't come from wealth develop wealth and what they did, their thought processes behind it. So, like just seeing the numbers, right? We know this men lie, women lie, numbers don't. It's extremely possible to be wealthy, especially now in today's world, than it has been
Sure.
when this book was first written. And I thought it was significant in talking about the difference between the two, right? Because you had brought it up, right? PAWs spend an average of only, and I love how they emphasize the word only. Or they didn't emphasize it, but in my brain, I did, because it's really not that much if you think about it. But PAWs spend on Kobe, where you going? Just lay down, bro. It's okay. Lay down. Good boy. Good boy. Um, they spend on average only 8.4 hours per month planning their investments. I guarantee people spend twice as much watching Netflix. Guaranteed. I bet my life on it. And if it's not Netflix, it's some other platform. You know what I'm saying? And if it's not Netflix or some other platform, it's definitely on social media, just
Yep.
literally wasting time. And what's crazy is we all use time. So it's how are you using it? And I think PAWs understand the significance of the utilization of that time and energy, right? There's also routes where people will utilize their energy and their time gossiping, arguing, getting into rebuttals or situations and circumstances that are not significant to the big picture. And it could instead be utilized towards where they're attempting to go and how they want to actually live a lifestyle of abundance. But you've got to make that conscious decision of how am I utilizing not just my month to month, but my week to week, my day to day, my minute to minute. And it's low key why, like, I would love to go swimming, but I've got to plan my week. You know what I'm saying? And no, it's genuinely those things and those conscious decisions that I'm working on remaining committed and consistent towards, despite me wanting to just vibe out. Because at the end of the day, as a middle income type of individual or somebody that is working on developing wealth, you are either a wealth accumulator or you are an under wealth accumulator, is what I'm starting to understand by reading this book, right? Doesn't matter. You choose. And it says that spends an average of only 8.4 hours per month on their investments. This translates to about 100.8 hours per year. Given that there are 8,760 hours in a year, so you don't have to do the math, Paul's PAWs allocate approximately 1.2% of their time planning their investments. Like, are you willing to put less than 1.5% of your time each year to plan your investments to accumulate wealth? Is the question I ask. Absolutely, I am,
Mhm.
bro. I've spent way much time, way much effort, and I genuinely don't. I've came to a point where like I genuinely don't care what people think or say. I'm literally fighting to be an example and testimony of God's faith in my life to produce abundance for my family. Period. Point blank. I don't. I could care less what people have to say about that because what it was saying about UAWs is they're practically spending half that time. They might be putting some effort in, but are you doing things with the intention of getting there, or are you doing things with a limited belief that you can achieve it?
It's
Like
like a hope
let's
of getting.
let's talk about it, bro, because keep it a buck. It's not enough to just do it here or there. You've got to make the consistent and the consecutive effort to do the things when you don't want to, whether or not you desire to, but because you know it needs to be done. That's literally what you talked about in terms of the definition of discipline, right? You've got to be willing to do those things and do them consecutively, right? It says UAWs allocate only one in every 160 hours of their total available time to planning their investments. PAWs allocate one in 87 hours. Oh my gosh. Like, I think we should
It's
take,
crazy.
like, bro, it's actually wild, which means in the amount of time it takes somebody to spend 1 hour, I'm getting twice that amount of planning and intentionality done as a PAW. Now, if I think it's good news though, if you find yourself as a UAW in order to become a PAW, right? It talked about,
Yeah.
I feel I'm gonna call. But it talked about how it says, will UAWs automatically become PAWs simply by doubling the number of hours they devote to planning their investments? It says not likely. So I like it keeps it pretty raw, right? Like just because you're doubling the time, hi mama. Just because you're doubling the time doesn't mean that you're gonna be a PAW. I think it's the red it says that most PAWs have a regimented planning schedule. Each week, each month, each year they plan. They also start planning at a much earlier age. So I don't think it doesn't mean that you can't become one. I think it means is you got to understand that if you are a UAW, you got to grow. And in order to get to the PAW type of perspective and consistent results, you've got to be willing to grow consistently more than average people do. Because as you said, and what we talked about, right, in order to have what most people don't, you have to be willing to do what most people won't. And at the end of the day, what I've learned is the great outlier is like, yo, if you are willing to sit there, think about your thoughts, plan, and then prepare to execute on the plan, it's game. Like I was just thinking about this just yesterday, bro. I spent a good 30 minutes reviewing my budget, and then I spent the remainder of my time going and making the actual investments that I've committed to myself this year, which means I had to take the time and dive through my different wallets, my different percentages in my funding, and then actually make those transactions and put those investments there and make sure that they are stored in the right areas. That takes time. And I could have just been like, nah, I'm gonna wait till maybe tomorrow or the next day. But I literally had told myself Friday and Saturdays are dedicated towards reviewing and submitting and executing upon my investment plans. And I'm not deviating from them, right? It's why that I feel like God has blessed a little because I've trusted him with my finances since I was 18. I've tithed faithfully. And my tithe faithfully wasn't because, oh, I want an abundance. At first, it started that way. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, oh, well, it says that if I tithe, he's going to yield it back to me. But the more consistent I was, and in the times where like God tells me, give me your first 10%, and I got 20 bucks in my bank account after I've done all my bills and payments, and I know that 10% of this past week was $15. Boy, I ain't gonna lie to you. I struggled giving the 15, but I still gave it. So I'm walking out of church, less than $5 in my account, and I'm like, well, I trust you, Lord. So here's the 15. I know I need that for gas, but I'll put $3 in gas, so it's okay. But point being is, bro, I've seen him deliver that in ways that money can't. And Pastor Brad said something in the fourth service that wasn't said in the third service, so I'll relay it. But he was just saying that, bro, God can do more with the 10% you give him, the 90% that you have in your pocket, than you could ever do with your 100% of what you have. 100%. And like as we're talking about percentages of income, right? In chapter 2 and chapter 1, it was expressing what percentage of income that millionaires were putting aside for appreciable assets, investments like stocks, like specific annuity accounts or ROA accounts, ROA, yeah, ROA accounts, and these brokerage accounts. Like, bro, we understand that those percentages are significantly more than the 10%. So like keeping it about what God will bless rather than what we can bless on our own. Like, are you even planning your 10% of the tithe? Are you planning what it is that you have, even if it's a little? And like, bro, I had to implement these small, minuscule percentages when I wasn't even having money really coming in like that, bro. And it's actually crazy how I just stick with it. You know what I'm saying? If I have $100, I know 20 to 25 bucks of that is going towards crypto investments. So I don't have $100. I got 75, and that's not even considering the $10 I got to go to church. So that's what, $65 I got to work with, and I only use 5 to 10% of it for my own gain. So that's $5 to 10. Like, bro, it's actually crazy, and everything else is towards bills and what I got to take care of. So, like, as God has blessed me with a little more, and I keep this mindset, I've had to be intentional with that, right? And I love what he says. It says planning and wealth accumulation are significant correlates uh hold on, are significant correlates even among investors with modest incomes. I was like, amen. I'm here. I'm an investor. I'm profitable at that as well, but I've had modest income. Like it's not like I'm balling out here, but watch that stuff be multiplied completely different. I saw a large amount of chapter 3 being about the difference between being income focused and wealth focused. If you're income focused, you are essentially consuming more than you're investing.
I feel like there's always like
I wrote it somewhere
there's
down.
a paw and there's a PAW and a UAW battle happening inside of
And
everybody.
every person.
Every time you
But
get, every time you get
but
more money,
the more that you do something right in repetition, the more new habits are formed. So you become something that you weren't once were. So you first have to break old habits once you identify what those habits are. The way that you do that is you've got to retroactively build those habits backwards, right? Because your habits are actions that you repeat over time. Your actions are influenced by the emotions that you have. Your emotions are influenced by the attitude of mind that you have. The attitude of mind are correlated to the beliefs that you focus on, and your beliefs come from the thoughts that are in your mind. So if you focus on the thoughts that led to the habits, you first have to reprogram and break your old habits. That in itself takes time. And then once you do that, then you've got to reprogram your brain with healthy thought patterns and consistencies that build out new beliefs, new attitude and perspectives of mind, emotional focus. I call that emotional intelligence, right? Just because you're positive doesn't make you exempt from the negative. And just because you're negative doesn't make you exempt or impossible to experience the positive. You have to choose what emotion you're focusing on because that will yield the action or lack thereof you take. And then the action itself develops the habit. So if you want to be an investor, start with an attitude of gratitude, focus on the positive emotions of being able to move your money in a way that wealthy people do with intention, right? I love the way that you started the call out, bro, because that's essentially what it's talking about, man. You've got to have the intentionality to use your time as a commodity. It's something
Mhm.
that we get every single day, that we
We
spend
take
every
for
single
granted.
day, that we can't make any more back. Period, point blank. The energy, like I think it's important to recognize that your energy is being used in these ways rather than in other ways, right? Even if your time and energy is being like present with family, right? That will yield and encourage a a driving motive to do all these things that you know need to be done in order to get you there. Because if we're on a 10 to 20 year plan, bro, it's better than a 40, 50-year plan. Quit playing with me. I'll do the consistent things over and over, and we're probably going to get to the finish line faster than what we think is going to occur. Period, point blank. Okay, I liked when he talked about fears and worries though. Because what do you spend time worrying about? Are your concerns congruent with wealth accumulation? Or do you spend time thinking about issues that are impedance to becoming affluent? And we talked about affluent being your ability to create wealth, right? How do PAWs and UAWs differ to regard in their fears and concerns? In simple terms, UAWs worry more than PAWs. Everything's spiritual, bro. I don't care what anybody says. It's actually crazy. UAWs worry more than PAWs, and PAWs and UAWs also worry about different things and different issues. Overall, PAWs are significantly have significantly fewer concerns and fears than their counterparts. You spend you will spend less time taking action to solve these problems if you spend more time thinking of the issues that concern you. It said, what if your fears provide a foundation for increased spending? That makes you a member of the UAW group. Fear and concerns can both be a cause for becoming a UAW as well as a result. Will a person who constantly worries about earning more money to enhance his lifestyle become wealthy? Probably not. I was like,
Yeah.
yo, bars. I was like, bars, bro. The authors went crazy on this because you've got to recognize that, again, the money is going to reveal who you are. And if you don't have a lot, your value is being more towards where your focus is at. And I feel like people get this twisted, man, because if your fears and concerns are more towards why you need to earn more money, you're probably not going to earn it because you're not focused on taking action. You're focused on the problem. I feel like clarity follows activity. Like if you move, then you'll know. I used to be I used to have this like inner conflict with my soul and my spirit because I'm like, God, like I need clarity before I move. Like I need to know where you need me to go and what I need to do. And he was like, bruh, quit playing with me. Just take the first step. It's literally like what Pastor Brad said, like take a step of faith. And then in that process, I'll show you what happens next. But trust me enough in this step. And then in that process, as you are in action, that's where things become more clear. Period. Oh, the baby, why you smiling like that? Hold on, you frozen? Y'all were frozen. She was cheesing. That was crazy. Okay, but yeah, no, I really like that part because if you are worrying, if you are worrying more than you're actually in activity, my friend, you are a UAW. So I'm grateful for the
You're in
scriptures
UAW.
because the scriptures tell us do not worry or be anxious about anything, but instead through prayer and petition and thanksgiving, bring our requests to God and he will deliver it to us in accordance to our faith. In accordance to our faith. Um, Another thing we didn't touch on is the fact that like just taking extreme ownership. On page 98, he spoke on your time being your own. Those who succeed among the ranks of the self-employed never take their economic position for granted. They tend to offset the inevitable changes in their revenue by planning and investing. They must build and manage their pension plans by themselves. They have to rely on themselves for their current and future financial situations. More often than not, only the well-disciplined self-employed survive economically over the long run. Bro, being self-employed over the last year and a half, almost 2 years now, has been one of the craziest faith journeys of my whole life. Like waking up every day knowing that I can't rely on somebody else giving me a paycheck. It's literally dependent upon my work ethic and my ability to do the things I know that need to be done. Forces me to operate in a state of faithfulness in God at a level I never had before. But it also forces me to understand that if the work is not being done, then
You're not getting paid.
yeah, the fruits will not be yielded. You know what I'm saying? If I am not planting the seeds and tending to the garden, I will not have a harvest, and there's nothing that I can gather. But this is we just read this in Bible study too, right? Like the the workers are few, but the harvest is plenty. It's not that there isn't enough to go out there. There are people out here as PAWs. They're getting paid, bro. They're getting paid. You're just not spending your time. And I think it takes extreme accountability and responsibility. That's what I was reminded about, right? It takes extreme accountability and responsibility, knowing that God saves you, but no one's coming to save you unless you believe that and you take action and activity, period, point blank. So if you're going to move and groove on the long term, then you have to be well disciplined as a self-employed individual who is desiring to succeed and put yourself in an economic position of wealth, which requires you to plan. Um, did you like the section where he talked about active or inactive trader? I thought that was pretty cool.
What?
There was a section on page 100, active or inactive trader. He said the
Oh yeah.
so-called active trader is one of the more difficult types of millionaires to find for interview purposes. He may be an ideal target market for stockbrokers. He certainly spends considerable amounts for brokerage fees related to his trading, but he represents a very small minority of the millionaire population.
Honestly, like that section made me think about how easy it is to confuse movement with progress.
Yeah,
Like just because I'm constantly doing something with my money doesn't mean I'm actually building wealth. The real question is whether the time and energy that I'm putting in are producing something that ultimately compounds. Like I think that's
exactly. Like
applicable to
yeah.
investing too.
Yeah. I have found more value and I've recognized it to be so that it is way more significant to receive $100 in a withdrawal and put that in an investment than it is to grow an account from $50 to 500 because the activity of me growing the money is awesome, but I also had to pay to play and there's a possibility of losing that. But whenever I
Exactly.
but whenever I withdrew and I had the ability to move that money into other avenues that are appreciable in assets, that's where the difference lies, and that's where the true significance is at too. Plus, bro, he says the active trader represents a small minority of the millionaire population. And this is where like people can be misled and manipulated in our space, bro, especially as we help people dive into utilizing trading as an investment, right? And this is why from jump, even when we were getting reconnected, I was telling you like, bro, this is just an avenue. We really want to help people take that money and solidify it in other lanes so that they have the abundant lifestyle and then they again steward it well, right? It's not about like trading shouldn't be your source of income. It is a way of investing, right? And you've got to do so with the right mindset. Otherwise, you're just going to be a spender, right? Um,
You start
and
spending on that XRP.
yeah, hey, bro, that's what I'm saying. We're gonna have a whole conversation about that. But he goes, keep in mind that a broker's net annual income is in excess of $200,000, but because he's a very active investor, he rarely allows the investment seeds he sows to grow. Any short-term realized gains he enjoys are taxed immediately. He's not the type of broker a millionaire prefers to patronize. Then what type do they prefer? Far less active investors. They prefer to deal with those who believe in buying based on considerable studying and then holding. So this is what I've understood. Like trading's fun. I love it, bro. But I recognize it to be a route to grow the income as an investment, to go and put in secure investments that you can hold long term. Things like real estate, things like IUL policies, things like crypto and stocks. Like you can put those things into long term holds rather than just
Investments.
a quick buy or sell. And yo, I wish people would get out of the mindset of what's the word I'm looking for?
Hoofda.
It's instant gratification. They just want to see it happen. And like it can happen. And it could happen overnight, but what looks like what happens overnight is actually something that occurs over a long period of time. Quit playing. You got to dive in. Okay, boom. Um, I think also just to keep it buck like real practical sense, he ended the chapter with something that we've talked about before, bro, and that's making sure you have a solid team behind you. What just happened? Am I there? Am I there? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Lord have mercy on my soul. I don't know what goes on with my computer sometimes. Okay, but what I was saying is like the way he ended the chapter was something that you and I have talked about in terms of having a solid team around you. And that's not just a team that helps build your organization or your vision or your brand, but it's more so your wealth team. I think there's a difference. And he spoke about choosing a financial advisor, getting an accountant if you don't already have one. And then he talks about the employment of a CPA. Shout out God. I got a CPA. You know what I'm saying? I am on the means I still need to find an accountant and a financial advisor. But like we need a team of people that specialize in helping us manage our funds effectively so that we can get to where we need to go. And I feel like people try to just be the person that does it all, and that's never going to work. You
Yep.
need advisement of different type of investments. You need people that can help you get intentional about how you're spending your money, being honest about the ways in which you can change and how you're stewarding and utilizing your money. Um, and
Honestly, if you're the smartest, strongest, and most capable person in every room you're in,
yeah,
you're probably in the wrong room.
wrong room. I agree with that 100%. And I feel like if you hire people that are experts in this lane, you can do what you're good at. Use your gifts and skills to actually serve people, and then have a team of people that are going to get you in motion in the long term because you have it. Um, this is this is why I'm grateful for this book because I'm like, one, I'm just getting confirmed that the things that I've built and I've gathered over years, I'm putting into practice, but I still have ways to go and I know what I still need to do. So grateful, shout out. I don't know who recommended this book. I think it was either me or Imani. Um, and I'm looking forward to it. Uh, And then um chapter 4, right, the subtitle kind of gives it away of what the entirety of this chapter is reading on. You aren't what you drive, right? So the millionaire next door, they believe that financial independence is way more important than displaying the high social status of you looking like it. This is why I be rocking the same shoes since college. I really don't care. I will rock. I don't know if y'all can see that, but this watch is definitely broken, and the um the number there is actually over here. The Roman numeral kind of like fell off a long time ago. I still rock it because it looks nice and I wear it for like for fit purposes, but I really don't care. Like I really don't. I love watches. I think they're appreciable assets, so I will be continuously investing in them in the future. But I don't need the showboat aspect, right? I will look good because I believe it matters how you present yourself, right? I will do the things and I will take care of what has been given to me, but I will I will literally drive this vehicle until the wheels fall off. And I will go and have another vehicle that I buy cash rather than getting at least any day. In fact, I will not purchase any type of vehicle off a lot until I bare minimum have the 10 years of bread on deck where I can live comfortably. And that bread that I spend is outright within 10% of what it is I'm buying, which means for me to get the Maserati that I desire, for me to get the Lambo that I want and the Ferrari that I see, I gotta be a multi-millionaire. There's no other choice. And until I get
Have
there,
at least
I'm rocking it, bro. I will rock my Nissan. I'm not tripping. I will rock the two.
a son.
I will rock Optima with the freaking gray bumper and the white body color of my vehicle. I don't care. I just need to and fro. I need to be in motion. And as long as I have a blessing to have a vehicle to drive, I'm smooth. And I think that's the purpose is like, what do you actually care about? Do you genuinely care more about what you look like and playing the part, or do you care about actually providing financial independence where you don't need to do anything, you choose to do things, right? You're able to provide and get those things taken care of because you've done the work and you have put aside the investable planning and executed on that planning so that you're in motion for the long term. Um, but yeah.
Solid.
Um, yeah, so there's a note that.
Freaking
Yeah,
Elena,
essentially he
dude.
was saying that like most of the millionaires weren't driving expensive luxury cars, but that the wealthy accumulators often view automobiles primarily as transportation rather than identity. It's literally what I just said. You know what I'm saying? Like I really don't give a damn about what it is I'm driving. I just need to get to and from, and I'm grateful for it. The longest time I felt like a freaking car note was a like blade above my neck. I didn't want it anymore. And I remember praying to God, like, dude, I'm so tired of it. I just want a cash car. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. And then when like he took everything away from me, he also took my vehicle and I stopped having to pay for a monthly. Like, well, God, that was difficult, but thanks. You know what I'm saying? I didn't expect it to go through that way, but I'm here. Um, so one thing that he really touched on is after he did like the price comparison of the vehicles, he talked about that the attitude of just having domestic brands rather than foreign ones is something that is seeing more among younger millionaires because the real growth in the millionaire market continues to come from the entrepreneurial segment, which I think is important, right? You're an entrepreneur, so am I, bro. So I think like once I hear this stuff, I like my ears perk up and I'm like, okay, I need to listen here. And it says that entrepreneurs, as a rule, are more price sensitive than others when it comes to acquiring motor vehicles. Successful entrepreneurs judge each expenditure in terms of productivity. They often ask themselves the impact heavy spending for motor vehicles will have upon their business's bottom line and ultimately their wealth. More often than not, they determine that investments for such items as advertising and new equipment are much more productive than very expensive motor vehicles. Like I would much rather spend more money on ad spend each month than on a car note. Why? Because
True.
I've seen that the more people that are exposed to my product, service, or platform, the more people will know about my product, service, or platform, the more leads I will have that can utilize said product, service, or platform, and the more cash flow that I can generate from the people that I'm serving with said service, product, or platform. Like these are things that I've had to learn from multi-millionaire and billionaires that like I didn't think about. I would always focus on kind of like what chapter 3 was talking about, the issue that I've got to pay my car note. Even though it wasn't a luxury car, it was still a car note, bro. And I was just like, dude, this is a lot. Like, I got to figure out how to solve this problem. But wealthy people aren't focusing on that. And like when we read Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki talks about it as well. You know what I'm saying? Like you should first take care of your assets and investments and your business before you take care of your bills. You tell that to 8 to 9 out of 10 people on the street, they're gonna say you're dumb because everybody's taught to pay your bills before you go and invest. But that's not what the wealthy people do. And like as we're diving through, what I really like about this book is I used to not be very like number oriented or green, but like they give you statistical data that like numbers don't lie, players. Like if you just look and do the research and they did the research for you, so all you got to do is like receive it, knowing that these numbers are probably well more significant now today because this book was written before the 2000s or like early 2000s, I can't remember. Like it's important to recognize that what we need to do to get to the wealthy class because again, the odds are definitely in our favor not having had wealth before. Um, it's just whether or not like our perception of our situation is that, or if it's the fact that, again, like Pastor Brad said, are we viewing our situations and circumstances to be at the level or greater than a God that has no rival or equal? Like, quit playing. My Bible tells me this, so I'm gonna go and figure it out. And if he gave me the ability to think, process, plan, execute, and be consistent with discipline, I'm gonna go and do that to the best of my ability and see what fruits are yielded. Bro, quit playing with my God. He's the reason why I was able to go to at least 30 different locations with different type of experiences in a way where my majority of my family ain't never left the state of Texas. You know what I'm saying? Like it's actually real life, not a game out here. And I'm just grateful because man, God will literally show you the faith, show you his faithfulness. Just through that alone. Uh we talked about a lot of millionaires expressing frugality. We kind of talked about that in chapter 2 before we got into chapter 3. But yeah, as you were saying, man, looking wealthy and being wealthy are two different things. And then in terms of when we do spend money as a wealthy individual, we've got to make those based on value and productivity, profitability, rather than consuming or pleasure or a distraction. And I think that the comparison that society does is an actual trap. So if we understand that comparison is the thief of joy and that joy is a fruit of the spirit, then we can instead of like a lens of comparison, have a lens of gratitude so that we can be grateful for what we have, take care of what has been given to us, multiply it like the parable of the talents, right? Take the 2 that were given, turn it into 4, take the 5 that were given, turn it into 10, rather than take the 1 that we have and hide it away because we're afraid of what could happen or we're seeing what X, Y, and Z people are doing versus what we're doing. And then we can yield like favor. I fervently believe that, bro. And like I stand completely firm in that belief, because I've seen it happen in my life, but I've seen it happen for others as well in a route that like I'm just in a more confident um than I am in others. I think the last thing I want to touch on is he had made a note. He said most look the part of millionaires, yet they are not wealthy. It's much easier in
Babe,
America.
you go put it down in the room.
It's much easier in America to earn a lot than it is to accumulate wealth.
It's much easier to what?
To earn a lot than it is to accumulate wealth. And this kind of reminded me of Rich Dad Poor Dad as well, where Robert Kiyosaki said that he knows a lot of um, high income earners who are still financially illiterate. And because they're financially illiterate, they still live paycheck to paycheck and they don't have true financial freedom. And I feel like if we move our mindsets from being consumers all the time to creators and servants of others, that's where we can literally have um, not just the net worth of $1 million or more, but we can have the wealth and experiences in relationships, in growth, in our own personal character that helps us really like operate in our God-given callings and purpose. So just like remaining intentional and focused on the truth behind that, I think is more important than what money can buy you. It's recognizing that it's a resource and a tool to really move things in the positive direction. So that's my takeaway.
Yeah, and I feel like just going off of like what you said, it's much easier to earn a lot of money than it is to accumulate lasting wealth. Like I feel like earning is like about production. Accumulating is more like discipline, stewardship, patience, delayed gratification. Like someone can have incredible income and still have very little wealth because everything coming in immediately goes
Goes
back
out.
out. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But bringing God into it, I feel like God isn't just interested in what he can put in my hands. He's interested in what I do with what he puts in my hands, if that makes
Man.
sense. So I feel like that's shit. And like one thing I'm taking from this is that earning a lot of money and actually building wealth are like obviously two completely different things. Like it's much easier to make money than it is to keep it, multiply it, turn it into something that lasts.
Yeah.
And that just kind of makes me think about faith. You know, I've been praying for God to bless me financially and give me the ability to like take care of my family, but I also have to ask myself, am I prepared to steward what I'm asking for?
Yeah,
Because I
because
don't
you
just
take a
want
lot of
God to,
responsibility.
yeah. Because I mean, I just don't want like God to give me more. I want him to make me more disciplined, more responsible, more capable of handling more. Because like what's the point of asking God for abundance if I don't have the character to like manage it? I believe the wealth I'm trying to build isn't just about me. I want to be able to like provide for my family, create opportunities, help others, you know what I mean? And build something that's gonna last way beyond whenever I leave this earth. You know what I mean? So I'm just realizing that the goal isn't just to become a high earner, it's the goal is to become a good steward because making money can happen super quickly, but accumulating wealth takes more patience, more discipline, and maybe God is like using this season not just to like prepare us
Yeah.
or me personally for the blessing that we've been praying for, but to prepare us for being able to actually carry it when it comes. I'm not just praying for God to increase what I have, I'm praying for that He increases my capacity to be able to steward what He gives me. You know what I mean?
Amen. No, amen, brother. And no, I love I love exactly like what you mean by that, bro, because it shows your heart posture, and as you remain consistent in that, like I think God rewards those things, bro. I really believe He does because with the growth that comes in like a submitted heart posture, I think people don't recognize how much more of a powerful position you're in if you leave it to Him, right? And that allows Him to understand that you will steward it well because you're doing it with Him. It's kind of like where He said, like, yeah, you went fishing before and you've caught some fish, but you ain't gone fishing with me. Like it's crazy. I've invested before, bro, and I've done trading before. I've done building businesses before, but I didn't do it entirely with him as much as I'm doing it now. And I've just seen like favor and blessings and opportunities open doors in a way that like I know that he has either swayed the hearts of those around me or allowed certain things to play out in a way. Like bro, you heard how I got to Dubai. I fervently believe that he allowed that to happen based off of one, my obedience to remain faithful, but two, he wanted it to be in a route where I could not do it on my own accord. Like he literally made it happen so that I had no other choice but to depend on him and operate with a little that I had and still experience it the way that I did. Like it's actually crazy every time I think about it. And it's like, man, if you recognize and you look close enough, you seek and you will find what God has already done, and He kind of reassures you of what is to come. Because if He's done it before, He'll do it again. He's the same today, yesterday, and tomorrow, all the time, bro. And like He's dependable, you know. And I think it's wild how people consider it trivial to relate wealth, money to your faith and spirituality. It's all the same. I think the powers that be want you to believe otherwise. But the power that is almighty above all things wants you to understand how to use it so that you can glorify
Yeah.
the kingdom, you know? So I'm excited, bro. I'm grateful that you know, you and I were able to have the discussion today, especially after the service that we caught together. I don't think anything is coincidental at all. So, you know what I'm saying? Whenever it's just me and one other person, the conversations are something powerful, especially when it comes to book club. Imani, we love you, girl. I know you catching the recording. I'm excited to hear your take on 3 and 4 next week. Next week, we're going to be diving into 5 and 6. We've got 2 more weeks of this book. I will explain what the next book is going to be after or as we wrap up next weekend. But chapter, where's the table of contents? It's right here. Oh, yeah. Chapter 5 is economic outpatient care. Crazy. And then chapter 6 is affirmative action, family style. Ooh, I think that one's gonna be crazy, bro. If anything, you and Melody should read that chapter together. Affirmative action, family style. That's gonna be something crazy.
Family style.
Family style in there. Family style in there. But yeah, bro, I am grateful for the conversation. If you're catching a recording, we'll see y'all next week. Don't just read these things, apply them. If you're not already putting in some intentional time, energy, and effort in financial planning and investing, start. Get the book, y'all. Read the damn book. Love you
Do
guys.
it.
Do it. All right, bro.
It's a damn book.